In order for you to write tests for your application, in here, if I expand the project tab, and you see that the Maven folder structure is src, and then we have main. So this is where the main code lives, right? So all of this you've seen. And then if I put this back, you can see that, so we have main, and then we have test. So in here, test. So if I click on test, and right here, you can see that we have one default test. So if I click on it and have a look, so we have this class called demo application tests, and then we have one single test. So this test doesn't do anything. In here we have this annotation at Spring Boot test, and I'm going to show you this in a second. But for now, let's just delete this. And what we're going to do is let's just basically, you can see that we have this play button in here or here. So basically this will run all tests found within this class, or you can run a single test. So let's just run all tests, and you can see run demo application tests. And there we go. You can see that the process has finished. And here you can see that we have some test results. So this basically took 45 milliseconds. This was the class. And within that class, we had one test called context loads, and it passed. So this test is pointless. So let's actually go and collapse this, and let's change this to it, and then should, and then add, and then numbers. So here, let me just create a class within this demo class. So here I'm going to say class, and then I'm going to say calculator, and then inside I'm going to have, so I'm going to say int, and then I'm going to say add. This will take two integers, so int a, and then int, and then b, and is going to return a, and then plus b. So this is the example that you saw before. And here, if I basically end this with semicolon there, and then format things, and we have our calculator. Now let's create an instance of this class right here. So here we're going to say calculator, and I like to name these are under, and then test, because it's the class under test, equals to new, and then calculator. Now in here, what I like to do with my tests is to have comments to lay out the foundation. So here I'm going to say // and then given, and then I'm going to say int, and then number 1 equals to 10, for example, or 20, and then int number, and then 2 equals to, and then let's say 30. And here I'm going to say when, and then when we say under test dot add, pass the number 1 and number 2. So this will give us an integer. So if I extract this to a variable, and I'm going to name this as result. And then finally, I'm going to have then. And then here I could perform the assertion. So here I'm going to say assert, and then that. And here I'm going to basically import. So here import static method, and then check this out. So we have a couple of imports. So you can see that we have org.assertj, core.api. We also have hamcrest, and we also have this one, which is deprecated. So let's select the first one, and then I'm going to say, so here basically it takes the, you can see the actual, so assert that, and then result dot, and then is, and then equal to. If I press, or basically I don't have to press Command P, you can see that we have the expected value. So what I can do is say, right, so the expected value for me is actually 50, right? Because 20 plus 30 is 50, right? So here I can just end semicolon, and we can also take this to a variable and we can say expected. So it's really up to you whether you want to name things. And now this is our very simple test. So let's just quickly run it. And check this out. So you can see that the test passed. So here we have, it should add numbers, and maybe we should say it should add 2 numbers, right? So let's just change it quickly. It should add, and then 2 numbers. Let's run it again. And there we go. So this test passed, right? And this time it took a little bit longer, so 99 milliseconds, because we had some extra steps in it. But basically, this is a basic unit test using JUnit and AssertJ. So let me just recap once more. So this annotation right here at test, this is JUnit, right? So this tells that this method is a test method. And then we have, basically in here, I'm actually using BDD's test style. So given, when, and then. So this makes it super easy for someone looking at the test and understand exactly what's going on. So given, so these are the inputs. And then when, and the test with the method that you are trying to test is invoked, in our case, add. When we pass the inputs, number 1 and number 2, we then say then, and then the expected. So we expect 50, and then we perform the assertion. So assert that the result is equal to expected. Now, if I also change this to 51, for example, let's just run it again. There we go. You can see that this failed, and it says expected was 51, but the actual was 50, right? So here, expecting 50 to be equal to, and then 51. So there we have it. Let me just collapse this, and you can see that this went red. And let me put this back to 50. And there you go. So this is your very first JUnit test with one assertion. Next, let's go ahead and test this student repository interface right here, which is a little bit more interesting.